Hello. Welcome on back to my channel. This is the day I've been looking forward to for a very long time now. Today our model is someone whom not only exudes beauty inside and out, but someone whom I'm really fortunate to be able to call a dear friend of mine. It is the one and only Miss Colleen Heidemann. Together we created a beautiful makeup look on Colleen that would not only look stunning on just about any mature woman or man, but would look great on just about anybody. So if you want to learn how I created this look right here, then keep on watching. So to begin, I'm using the Fresh Rose Deep Hydration Oil-Infused Serum to prepare Colleen's skin. I've enjoyed using a serum to prepare the skin lately, specifically this one. The brand was nice enough to send some product my way a few months ago, and I've been using it ever since. I'm applying this with a makeup sponge gently onto the skin, being sure to bring this around the face completely and even down the neck and décolletage. With a dewy skin cream from Tatcha, I'm applying this with a beauty blender. Now, it's not completely necessary to double prep the skin, but in today's case, I really wanted our model's skin to be ultra moisturized because we're going to be going in with quite a bit of product. Because we're working with more mature skin, the amount of products and powders I usually use in these tutorials won't be as heavy, but still, we're gonna get a really beautiful full glam look that Colleen's skin will be able to handle without the makeup looking cakey or becoming disheveled throughout the day, and that's all because of the way we prepare it. For foundation, I'm using the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk Foundation in the shade 5.5 and also applying this with the same beauty blender. You can see here that the foundation has a barely there look to it, and how we've prepared her skin is what's contributing to this. The serum and moisturizer help shear out the pigment in the foundation, which allows me to build it up in the areas I want fuller coverage. I'm taking my time with building up this foundation because I'm keeping in mind that I'm going to be using full coverage concealers to contour and highlight in just a minute. So slow and steady wins the race here. More than anything, I'm relying on the foundation to even out the skin tone and provide us with a nice base before we go in with the contouring. Alright, so now that we have our foundation applied, I'm going to move on to contouring. To do so, I'm using the multi-use sculpting concealer from Too Faced, and I'm using the shade Mocha. With a face brush, I'm almost kind of stamping this onto the skin, working in sections, starting from the cheekbones and temples. Even though I say I'm contouring, I'm more so bronzing and adding some color to the skin. That's why I'm using a shade that has a warmer undertone rather than a cooler undertone. Her chest is a bit darker than her face, so by applying this product, I'm balancing out her skin tone a bit, but also giving definition to her face. Cooler undertone contour products definitely help give more of an illusion of bone structure, but in most cases of working with a mature client or model, in my experience, I don't want to hollow out the face structure because as we age, that naturally happens anyways. Also later, I'm not going to be using a powder bronzer to warm up her skin, so using this warm undertone of a concealer to contour, it cuts out a step later on in the makeup application. I know sometimes you see me apply all of the contour at once and then blend it out, but that's usually when I'm working with creams which have more playtime and don't set like a liquid concealer. So in this case, because I'm using a liquid concealer, I'm working in sections so I can prevent the product from setting, which would therefore make it more difficult to blend out. I know I've mentioned it before, but what's nice about using the same blender throughout the whole makeup application is that I'm using the remains of the foundation to help with the blending of the contour. It just makes it a bit more seamless, you know what I'm saying? And I'm sorry here that some of the footage is out of focus. I dropped my camera the other day and it's been acting a little funny ever since. to conceal and highlight, I'm using the same concealer from Too Faced, but this time it's in the shade Pearl. And I'm applying this with a concealer brush directly underneath the eyes before heading back to my beauty blender to blend it out. Now, you can go as heavy or as light as you'd like with the concealer, of course. A lot of people will say not to go as heavy as I am with the product now, but there really are no rules in makeup, and Colleen can handle it. We've created some epic makeup looks in the past, and that's one of many things I appreciate about her, is that she's so open to everything and has the same curiosity for makeup that I have. She loves playing with colors and highlighting and contouring and all of that fun stuff. So I'm going a little extra with the concealer today because I really want to brighten up this area of the face and lift it. When I blend out this concealer, I blend it up and outwards towards the hairline to really lift the cheekbone. And then I diffuse it downwards towards the contour. But if you noticed, when I first applied the concealer with the brush, I didn't apply it to this complete area, knowing that once I start blending, it will diffuse outwards. And if I need to add a little extra, I do, but it's much easier to add than it is to take away. And it's when there's too much concealer that the fine lines begin to crease. So I've blended out the under eye on the other side, and what you see me doing here is taking the concealer I have left on the sponge to apply to the upper eyelid, and this will cover up any red or blue undertones we see in this thin area of the skin and prepare it for the shadows we later put on top. I do bring this up to the area where I imagine I'll be drawing on the brows, so this will also contribute to the illusion of bright, lifted eyes. Just to add some definition to the facial structure, I'm applying just a smidge of this concealer to the center of the forehead and chin before blending it out. And a little trick I like doing often is applying concealer to the bottom corners of the mouth to help give that area a bright and lifted effect. And it doesn't have to be a lot of concealer either, just the smallest amount goes a long way. For the nose, I'm just running this concealer straight down the center before also blending this out. The placement of products is going to vary from person to person, of course, so keep that in mind as you watch this and just apply what you find to be best for you and your face shape. But no matter who it is, blending is key, which is why you see me do a lot of it. For example, I felt the contour on the nose was a little too strong for my liking, so I run over it lightly with my beauty blender to diffuse it. In fact, I go back and blend everything once more around the face. I know the blending footage is a little redundant sometimes, but I try to keep it in as much as possible for those of you who enjoy watching it. Next, with the Ultra HD Concealer from Makeup Forever, I'm placing the smallest amount of this near the lower inner corner of the eyes. And this is another little trick of mine I love doing. I'm not placing this concealer there for more coverage per se. I'm just using it to really brighten that part of the face. The shade concealer I'm using is Y21, and it's one of those products I keep on me at all times for this exact purpose. So if you're someone who enjoys that bright under eye look, try placing a concealer a couple shades lighter than you'd usually use right in this area, and I think you might like it. Alright, so with this translucent setting powder from Laura Mercier, I'm going to begin setting the face with my powder puff. I'm starting with the under eyes because we have the most amount of product there, and that area is prone to crease first. So we're going to get that area out of the way with before we set the rest of the face. With my powder puff, I'm really pressing this powder into the skin. And if you're someone with fine lines around your eyes, or if you're a makeup artist working on someone with fine lines around their eyes, try moving the powder puff around in tiny circular motions as you press the powder into the skin. I find this really helps approach the fine lines from all angles of them with the powder. Instead of just powdering on top of them, you kind of have to get into the I don't know if this is all making sense. It's probably just another one of my wacky ways of doing makeup, but hear me out on this. I do feel like it kind of makes a difference, and not just for the under eye area, but for the whole face in general. Just really press the powder puff into the skin and go in circular motions so any texture or fine lines are really set from all angles. Anyways, I'm just gonna let this play out so you can watch and enjoy. Now that we have the face set for the most part with the loose setting powder, I'm now taking the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish Powder in the shade 1 with a clean eyeshadow brush to set the hard to reach places, such as the inner corners of the eyes and the nostrils, and of course we need to set the eyelids because we had placed concealer there earlier. So as you can probably tell, a lot of what I'm doing here with this powder is fine tuning. But now that that's done, I'm gonna dip into the Stay Naked Threesome palette from Urban Decay to give some color back to her cheeks. I've shared this with you all before. It comes with a bronzer, a highlighter, and a blush, but I really only use it for the blush. It's one of my favorite colors, and I think it looks really, really beautiful on Colleen. Although I'm not going to bake the under eyes, I will use the Mercier setting powder to bake underneath our cheekbone contour, specifically around the corners of the lips. And this will not only help lift the corners of the mouth, it'll also help reduce the chances of lipstick bleeding from the corners of the mouth throughout the day. And while I leave this powder here, I'm going to use the Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Wiz in the shade of Soft Brown to begin drawing on Colleen's brows. Now, as you can see, her brows are pretty sparse, and because I want the brows I create to be very soft and to complement her beautiful eye shape, I'm going to take my time with this. So as I'm finishing up on this brow, I'm gonna complete the other brow off camera to save us a bit of time. But for the most part, the hard work is done with, and now we can start speeding things up. For the eyes, I'm using the new Huda Beauty Purple Haze eyeshadow palette, and I'm starting with that warm taupe color from the bottom left-hand corner of the palette, and applying this onto the outer corner of the lid, blending my way up into the crease. This look is intended to be smoky and effortless, so there's not a whole lot of precision needed here. And then with the purple shimmer shade, I'm going to dust this onto the center of the lid with my finger. This is a really beautiful color as is, with a beautiful reflect in it. But for this look, I wanted to sheer out the shadow a little bit so the shine is a little more understated. And the last eyeshadow color I'm using is the matte purple shade, which I'm placing in the areas of the lid where I want to have a little bit more depth. I really love how this eyeshadow look turned out. It doesn't look too complicated, it's elegant, and it's appropriate for daytime and nighttime. And because I didn't apply much eyeshadow, it's not overly opaque, which I prefer sometimes. I could build up the shadows if I wanted a really opaque full look, but sometimes a wash of color on the lids is my favorite eye look to do. And here I'm just heading back to that very first shade we used and running it underneath the lash line. And with the matte purple shade, I'm running this a little closer to the lash line using a detail blending brush. Next, with the Point Made Black Pen Eyeliner from One Size Beauty, I'm tracing the upper lash line and lifting it slightly at the outer corner of the eye to give us a more lifted and elongated appearance. And because I wanted this line to be soft, I'm just dipping into a black eyeshadow, stamping it on and lifting the shadow upwards, which will diffuse the edges of the liquid liner for us. Applying liner will also help conceal the band of the lashes we use. For the top lashes, I'm using Lily lashes in the style Luxe, which I feel are perfect for this look because they're not overly dramatic. And for the bottom lashes, I'm using the underlashes from Tatti Lashes, and I'm individually applying these on with tweezers. Bottom lashes aren't for everybody, but if you've seen any of my videos here on YouTube, you know that it's been a recent addiction of mine to apply bottom lashes. I think for the longest time, the thought of applying them scared me, especially with how shaky my hands are, but honestly, it's much easier than it looks, and as you see, it really just bumps up your eye makeup a whole nother level. With the Shimmering Skin Perfector from Becca in the shade Opal, I'm just dusting this onto the high points of Colleen's cheekbones to bring back a little shine to the cheeks, along with down the center of the nose and Cupid's bow. I'm also placing a bit of this highlighter to the inner corners of her eyes. Moving on to lips, I'm using a liquid lipstick from Anastasia Beverly Hills in the shade Allison, and I'm tracing the lips with this. I've shared with you all before, but I love lining the lips with liquid lipsticks rather than a pencil. Something about it is just easier for me, and especially if you're someone that has fine lines around your lips and you're experiencing your cream lipstick bleeding throughout the day, try lining with a liquid lipstick of a similar shade and then go on top with that cream lipstick of yours. But don't bring it all the way to the edge. Or if you like more shine than a cream, you can just go on top with a gloss, which is what I ended up doing today. For that gloss I was just speaking of, I'm using a gloss from NARS in the shade Turkish Delight, and I'm applying this right on top. This light baby pink is the perfect shade as I needed something to lighten up the color a bit. Also, most of you know by now that it's nearly impossible for me to complete a look without a gloss. But on the bright side, this officially makes the very last step in how we transformed Colleen from her naturally beautiful self into a movie star. And there we have it, kids. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. You can also check out more of my work on my Instagram at PAINTEDBYSPENCER. And until next time, I'll see you soon.